At the beginning, we see a man standing at the airport when a taxi driver approaches him and asks where he's headed. The man doesn't respond at first, so the driver repeats the question. This time, the man says he's there to catch a shuttle and needs to get to Waterfront Plaza. The driver quickly offers him a ride, promising to get him there faster if he takes the cab. Since the man is short on time, he agrees and hops in. Once they're on the road, the driver mentions that traffic around the airport is going to be heavy today. Right then, another car suddenly brakes in front of them to pick up a passenger, which irritates the driver. The man points out that the airport area is always busy and recalls a time he once had to wait 5 hours for a flight. He adds that airports are fascinating places because you see all kinds of people there. The driver agrees and admits he tends to watch the crowd, especially the women, before sharing a story of his own. Years ago, he saw a woman at the airport crying as she kissed a man goodbye. The man stayed stoic and never looked back, even though she kept turning around to glance at him as he walked away. Moments like that, the driver says, are what make airports unique. You witness stories there you wouldn't see anywhere else. Eventually, the driver introduces himself as Sam, and the passenger says his name is Greg. As the conversation continues, Sam casually asks Greg if he's feeling sleepy. Greg admits he's already irritated after overhearing a couple bickering in the seat next to him earlier. Sam says that after 17 years of driving a cab, he's seen just about everything. Passengers spilling secrets, others hopping in with questionable or even illegal stuff. A little while later, when traffic finally starts moving, Greg lets out a sigh of relief. But almost immediately, Sam accidentally bumps into a woman. Within seconds, a man rushes over and demands to see the insurance papers from Greg. Confused, Greg explains he's already in a tough spot and doesn't even own the car, so how could he possibly have the documents? The two then ask where the cab is headed, and when Greg says Waterfront Plaza, they request a ride to their hotel on the way. Sam agrees, and they climb into the car. The man introduces himself as Casper, joking that he's named after the friendly ghost because he kind of looks like him. Greg laughs and teases that he must be some kind of spirit. Casper then gestures toward the woman and says her name is Billy the King. Hearing all this, Greg introduces himself properly. Casper then asks Greg whether he plans to pay the fare in cash or by card. Greg suggests that since they're splitting the ride, it would be better to pay in cash rather than use a card. But Casper admits that his card gets blocked whenever he travels out of state. That's when Greg realizes the guy probably doesn't have any money on him at all. Greg jokes that the country's economy keeps getting worse and unemployment is rising fast, but Casper refuses to blame the economy, insisting that people are responsible for their own lives. Greg agrees, saying nothing in this world comes free. A little later, Casper suddenly asks the driver where the most beautiful women in the city can be found, which surprises Greg, though he stays quiet. Casper then says he'd like to hit a strip club, calling it adult education, but Billy immediately shuts that down. When Casper jokingly brings up jail, Billy gets annoyed. They ask Sam to recommend a good club, but he says he's not into that scene at all. Greg keeps the jail joke going and shares his odd life philosophy, saying that sometimes getting knocked around a little is good for you. Soon, an unpleasant smell fills the car, and Sam explains the taxi actually belongs to his brother Eddie, who's having eye surgery, so Sam is driving it for now. To avoid trouble with the police, he even swapped out the photo on the ID card. Then Sam brings up something called the Millionaire Tour, explaining that some criminals target wealthy travelers at the airport, pull a gun on the driver, take the passenger hostage, and force them to withdraw cash from ATM after ATM across the city until there's nothing left in their accounts. Casper and Billy exchange a look and say they know exactly what he's talking about, and that it's happening right here in this city. As the conversation unfolds, Greg starts getting suspicious, especially when they rant about the economy, take shots at wealthy people, and make pointed comments about his expensive suit and watch. That's when it clicks. Something isn't right. Realizing the situation is turning bad, he tries to get out of the car, but they keep talking over him and block any chance of leaving. Suddenly, Casper and Billy drop the act. Billy pulls out a gun and calmly tells Greg he got into the wrong car. They read out his name and address from his wallet and even mock an old photo they find inside. They take his phone and whatever cash he has, but it's only $52. That's not enough, so they decide he'll need to start withdrawing money from ATMs. Casper explains the plan. Greg will go inside the ATM booth alone because there are security cameras in there, and if they're seen, the whole operation could fall apart. Greg realizes he's walked straight into the Millionaire Tour trap Sam had just described. Billy then lays down the harshest rule of the tour. If Greg tries to run, he'll be shot on the spot. Any screaming, tricks, or attempts to outsmart them will end the same way. They even warned Sam not to take his hands off the steering wheel or attempt to unbuckle his seatbelt. At this point, there's only one path left for survival. Stay calm, use his head, and do exactly what they say. They order Sam to turn toward an ATM, and Billy warns Greg that even the smallest mistake will get him killed. Greg goes into the booth, withdraws cash, and gets back in the car. Inside, the conversation oddly shifts to a tarot card hanging from the rearview mirror, an image of a man suspended upside down. Sam nervously says it looks like a sign of death, but Billy counters that a psychic once told her it represents letting go of illusions and seeing life from a new perspective, basically transformation and freedom. Soon they pull up outside a bowling alley. Casper doesn't want to go inside, arguing it's too risky and that their real boss, Roman, wouldn't approve. He'd rather take the hostage straight to him. But Billy refuses to end the Millionaire Tour early. She wants more money. So eventually Casper gives in. Billy takes Greg to another bank to withdraw more cash, but this time Greg sees his chance and bolts. Billy chases after him as he sprints away and dives into an abandoned car, quickly hiding his credit cards inside. But Billy catches up, and as Greg tries to escape again, Casper grabs him. Furious that he broke the rules, Billy raises her gun to shoot him. The situation spirals out of control, and realizing things are getting too messy, they scramble back into the car and speed off. Back in the car, Casper is furious. He snaps at Billy, saying their boss wants the hostage alive and that firing a gun for no reason just invited the police into their messes. But Billy fires back, revealing that Greg isn't some random guy. He's the notorious Julius Jax. The mood inside the car instantly turns heavy. Casper pulls out his pistol and makes it clear that if anyone tries to set him up, he won't hesitate to shoot. He warns that if things go sideways, the first bullet goes into Greg and the second into Sam. Then he orders Sam to step on the gas. Soon they drag Greg to yet another bank to pull more money. This time, Greg tells the teller he wants to cash a $5,000 check, claiming he's buying his mother a car for her birthday and the dealership will give him a discount if he pays part of it in cash. The bank employee carefully checks his ID and eventually approves the check. Just before the cash is handed over, Greg notices Casper looking unusually tense. Seizing the moment, Greg discreetly slips a CD from the counter into his pocket, hoping that if security checks them on the way out, the metal detector might expose the gun Casper is carrying and get them caught. Meanwhile, the teller asks Greg if he'd like to donate to the Lifeline Foundation, which supports heart patients. To everyone's surprise, including his captors, Greg donates $1,000 from the money. But as they begin to walk out of the bank, an alarm suddenly starts blaring. Just as the security guard is about to check them, the teller stops him and says, "It's fine. He just donated $1,000. He's a generous man." Hearing that, the guard waves them through. Ironically, Greg's clever plan backfires. His good deed is the very thing that saves them from being searched. But once they're outside, the story takes a darker turn. It turns out they kidnapped Greg because they believe he's Julius Jax, a major con artist who stole $4 million from their boss, Roman. Greg repeatedly insists they've got the wrong guy. His name is Greg Newman, and he has no idea who Julius Jax is. They don't buy it. They assume he's just acting. To intimidate him, they recount one of Julius's old scams, claiming he once made an expensive Maybach disappear without a trace. They even threaten that they're holding his wife hostage. Shocked, Greg tells them he isn't married. But when they notice the ring on his finger, they assume he's denying her existence to protect himself. Convinced he's lying, they decide to take him straight to Roman. Right then, Roman calls. Casper tells him they're close and will arrive soon. After hanging up, he stares at Greg, who, terrified, keeps pleading that he's not Juliet, that there's been a mistake, that he's from Santa Rosa, California, and his real name is Greg Newman. Billy and Casper burst out laughing at his story and start listing off his supposed past identities. 7 years ago, they say, he was Gary Loresso in Rhode Island. 2 years ago, when $12 million disappeared from the Macmillan Fund, he was going by Frank Jacques. Greg is stunned, insisting over and over that he has nothing to do with any of it. But they counter that they've been watching him since the airport. His blue suit, brown briefcase, even the taxi number all match the intel they were given. Desperate, Greg explains he's just a salesman who sells supplies to churches, and that church communities tend to trust married family men more than single guys. That's why he wears a fake wedding ring. It's good for business. Curious, Billy asks what exactly he sells. Greg says he bottles and distributes holy water, sometimes even claiming it's from the Jordan River, and markets it to congregations. When they still don't believe him, he suddenly switches gears and demonstrates how he pitches his product. In an instant, he transforms into a full-on salesman, voice rich and confident, preaching that while medicine may heal the body, the soul's thirst can only be quenched by sacred water. He weaves in Bible references so smoothly that the entire mood inside the car shifts, as if a true believer is speaking. His performance is so convincing that even Billy starts to look uncertain. Casper isn't buying a word of it. He snaps at Billy, saying Julius is such a skilled con artist, he could sell ice to Alaska, so of course he can put on a holy act. Greg keeps insisting he's telling the truth, but they demand proof. Casper challenges him. Where's the holy water? Where are the samples or brochures? What kind of salesman walks around empty-handed? Greg admits he doesn't have any materials with him, which only makes them laugh harder. A holy water salesman with no product sounds like a bad joke. Trying another angle, Greg claims he came to town to meet a famous TV evangelist named Elmer Jones, a preacher watched by millions every Sunday, known for his outspoken stance against homosexuality. Still, they aren't convinced. No one shows up to a business meeting empty-handed, especially not with a broken phone and no working contacts. Casper mockingly applauds, calling him a born actor and saying that among all the con men in the world, he's basically Leonardo da Vinci. Cornered, Greg finally drops the act and admits the real reason he came. He wasn't here for business. He was planning to blackmail Jones. During a weekend visit to Jones's house, he discovered the preacher secretly spent the night with another man. Greg intended to use that secret to squeeze money out of him. Even then, the kidnappers hesitate to believe him. So Greg shifts again, beginning to tell them the tragic story of his life. Greg says that 6 years ago, his mother was diagnosed with heart disease, and the insurance company refused to cover the treatment, dodging responsibility completely. Her medical care costs $200,000 a year, so he sold his house and everything he owned to keep her alive. He admits he's a fraud in some ways. He sells belief to other people while not believing in much himself, but he's desperate. If blackmailing someone is what it takes to pay for his mother's treatment, then he's willing to carry that sin. He shouts that maybe he's a sinner, but saving his mother's life makes it worth it. Billy starts to waver, telling Casper to pull over because maybe they grabbed the wrong guy. His story feels real. Casper shuts her down, insisting she's being naive. Julius is a master manipulator, he says, and this emotional confession is just another performance, a calculated act of weakness. Meanwhile, Greg warns them that once they reach Roman, they're all dead, because they didn't actually capture the real Julius. His warning falls on deaf ears. They keep driving until they pull up outside a warehouse. Casper says Roman is waiting inside, and he's furious. And that's when the biggest twist of the movie is about to unfold. As they drag Greg toward Roman, the taxi driver, Sam, suddenly appears from behind and starts taking the men out one by one. That's when the truth explodes into the open. Sam is actually the real Julius. After landing at the airport, Julius realized he was being followed, so he killed the actual cab driver and took his place as part of a larger plan. To reach Roman's hidden warehouse without raising suspicion, he needed someone who looked enough like him to serve as a decoy. Someone Roman's crew could mistake for Julius and unknowingly lead him straight to their base. By pure chance, Greg stepped into the wrong taxi at the worst possible moment and became the perfect stand-in. Julius had been driving the whole time, letting Greg play the fake Julius, so Roman's men would expose themselves. His real goal wasn't the money, it was rescuing his wife. As the chaos settles, Julius's sister Julie pleads with him not to harm Greg, and he agrees. But first, he has a quiet moment with him. Greg, thinking he's about to die, asks for one thing. If he doesn't make it, tell his mother he never lost his faith in the. That raw emotion hits Julius hard, because he was raised by a devoted mother too. Before letting Greg go, Julius tells him that everything that happened over the past few hours, all of it, needs to be forgotten forever. Julius tells Greg that from this moment on, he has to believe he never got into that taxi and that he has never heard the name Julian Jacks. He makes it clear he knows Greg's name and address, and if the police ever come looking, he'll find Greg too. Then, as Julius walks away, he hands Greg his briefcase. Inside is a large sum of money meant for his mother's medical treatment. When Greg turns around, Julius is already gone. He's left standing alone on the side of the road, holding the briefcase and trying to process the most unbelievable night of his life. A few moments later, a regular taxi pulls up and the driver casually asks where he's headed. Greg still grips the briefcase, carrying not just the money but the weight of everything that just happened. And that's where the story comes full circle. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care, and thanks for watching.